What's your advice when it comes to formatting a resume?
Yeah. Everyone's going to be like, wow, so boring. From hardware hacking to resume formatting. They're going to be like, what a letdown.
Do you know what, though, Kelly? Do you know what? I don't know about you, but like a lot of guys do, a lot of pen testers do ask me this. They don't know. So it might be,
Yeah.
but I think they want to
I
go on.
tease. I joke about
No,
it
no,
because I do
no.
sometimes think, in comparison to my coworkers, my job is so boring. But at the same time, you can be a really badass hardware hacker, and that might not come across if your resume is so poor that I can't
Mm,
parse that out. So I think that it is important. I think I say this a lot, and present company excluded, but as a rule of thumb, I think a lot of recruiters are dumb, which is terrible.
mm,
But I think that there's a lot of recruiters out there who maybe they're hiring for a single security role, and they mostly hire software engineers and product and sales, and they have one IT role that pops up for a pen tester, and they're trying to like fill that role in addition to all these others. So I think you have to know who your first audience is, and your initial audience might not be someone like you or me who's in this space 24/7. And so making sure your resume is really clear, making sure you get to the point that like TLDR, too long, didn't read, is it brief, is it clear, is it well formatted? Like people need white space to be able to process. And if you are like me and you have jobs with 500 applicants and somebody submits a 10-page resume, that is not something I'm like, oh, great, I'm so stoked. Let me roll up my sleeves to read all 10 pages. Like, I want you to feed it to me. I want to be able to scroll really quickly and just glance through it in 10 seconds and be like, oh, yes, there's good stuff here. I'm incentivized to spend more than 10 seconds and actually read it all. Because the data, like the eye scanning data, shows that recruiters on average only spend what, it's like 9 seconds per resume, which is nuts. But I think it's true in that, like, my initial pass is going to be really quick, and you need to make it clear enough, concise enough, templated well enough for me to be like, oh, yes, this is something I want to dig into.
yeah, no.
Yeah.
Listen, thanks for that, Caitlin. And I think the key is if you don't know who you're sending your resume to, I think it's so difficult. Like now, everyone listening knows you're getting you say 500 apps?
I will get 500 apps on jobs.
Okay, so you've got 500 apps to go to. So you're not going to want to receive a 2 or 3 page resume with no white space because it's just going to be like,
Yeah.
oh. Whereas if it's a small pen testing company, say, I
Yeah.
don't know, in New York with 10 people and they're making one hire a year and it's the founder reading it and he's used to being really heavy on code review or something,
Yeah.
maybe he's cool with it. So I think you've got to
Mhm.
know your audience really. And I think that's why we get so much conflicting information.
It's,
So yeah, I do think it really depends on the company. I think
mhm.
if I was to have a kind of broad brush approach, I think someone like you, I think it's obvious that you're going to be getting a lot of
Mhm.
applicants, well known in the market, things like that. I think if it's maybe a smaller company, maybe you can afford to be a little bit more long-winded. But at the
Yeah.
same time, everyone's busy, aren't they? So I know the general rule I've heard is one page, but I just hear so many people saying
Yeah.
conflicting things.
I think it's
You know,
fine to go up to two. I think
mm,
no matter where you're at in your career, I'm going to be scratching my chin if you need to go over two. Like, you must have
mm,
accomplished quite a lot.
mm,
I also think like accomplishments do start to age out. So maybe the job I had 10 years ago that wasn't related to recruiting, that's fallen off my resume now because I want to keep it to what's really important, where I want your eye to go. I
mm,
don't want you to be distracted by things that don't really tell the story of who I am today and the jobs I'm going after today. And to be fair, when I'm job searching, I do update my resume for almost every job I apply for that I'm serious for, and I tailor it to the posting. And I know that's labor intensive, and if you're really on the job search, that might not be feasible. But I've heard people using ChatGPT to help pull from job posts and then help them with the bullets. And I wouldn't take what it puts out. I would definitely edit what it puts out. But I think it's working smarter, not harder. Really take into account the job description and how that relates to the resume you're putting out there.
mm.
I think that's important.
Would you like seeing a LinkedIn profile pinged across with the resume?
Yes, I
Yeah,
actually
definitely.
think sometimes if your resume is chaotic and stressful, I will probably click on that LinkedIn profile link because I know how LinkedIn will force you to format.
Yeah.
And I hope then, oh, maybe I'll get better information from this LinkedIn profile than this chaotic resume.
Yeah.
And to be fair, I really do. I know the average is 8 seconds, and sometimes I can see what I need to see in 8 seconds, right? If I'm hiring a principal and you're a new grad, I'm probably going to reject you quickly unless I have a new grad role I can reroute you into. But for the most part, even the 10-page resume, I'll sit down and be annoyed, but I will read through all of it and try to figure out if it's a fit or not. But you don't necessarily want your recruiter annoyed. You want your recruiter to be happy to engage with you. So I think making it brief and clear and action oriented. I think women especially will say, I was a part of a team that did, when really they were like the team leader. And it doesn't necessarily matter in this resume, in this moment that you call out the team. I would rather you were like really active and were like, instead of even saying I, like cut the I out and just be like, drove revenue growth or tested and then list the types of applications you were working with. I think being like clear and action oriented and cutting out some of that wishy-washiness will also help your chances.
Yeah, no, definitely. So don't use words that don't need to be there. Just keep it really short and sweet. For my clients that are really busy, by the way, I do a separate cover note for them and they just have to read a few lines so they know straight away.
Yes.
And the LinkedIn profile, I've got it with one client. And again, last year, lots and lots of hiring with them. And he's a New Yorker. He's typical New Yorker, very straight talking, which I like, by the way.
Me too.
And he just basically said, Tom, listen, I'm not looking at resumes. I just want the LinkedIn profile. So that kind of says it all. But I think going back to what you said about doing stuff in the community, if someone goes on a LinkedIn profile and they're a YouTube content creator, I say they're doing stuff for the community. I know not everyone can speak at events, but if they can speak at
Mhm.
events, the more they're doing in the community, I just think, I keep saying it on the pod, but I think it just makes the resume 3D. It's just, I say, if
Yeah.
you, and the thing is, you're interested, if you're watching the YouTube channel and doing this, and as a recruiter, I think you just bought in straight away.
Yeah,
So,
I love that idea of making the resume 3D. I think that as there's so much noise out there on what to do with a resume, I think that's at the heart of it is like making it clear and concise and bringing who you are into it and staying away from some of the jargon or just copy and pasting from the job description, but truly, what have you accomplished? What do you care about? What are you involved in? Capturing that in the resume so that I can get a picture of who you are, like that's what I can get some traction on when I show it to my hiring manager or to the interview team. That's what I can drum up some enthusiasm around.
yeah, no, definitely. So when you're showing it to hiring manager, say head of pen testing or something
Mhm.
like that, they just want it to the point. I think I'm answering it for you, but is that
Yeah.
what they want
Well,
internally at your side?
one of my favorite hiring managers kills me. He's always, oh yeah, if the resume is really bad, I know they're a good tester because they didn't put any time into their resume. And I'm like, no, it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. But if you got blind spots and you don't know your resume is bad, there might be someone out there who's cheering for you.
Okay. Okay. So in a nutshell, then we're going to
Mhm.
say keep your LinkedIn profile up to date. Presume it's
Mhm.
going to be looked at like a resume.
Mhm.
Keep in general, keep it down. Don't use unnecessary words.
Mhm.
And the more you can do in the community, the better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you and I can't always find people if they don't have a decent LinkedIn. So I think as the world changes, more and more recruiters are trying to find you versus hoping you come to them with your
Mm.
resume in hand. So I think making sure you have some sort of professional online presence, especially in this community, I know that's contentious in that some people want the smallest digital footprint possible. And I understand that. And they
Mm.
want their privacy. And I understand that too. But I think if you're really actively job searching, having some sort of curated online presence that recruiters can find, you're better off when the recruiter comes to you. I think that's always a
Mm.
leg up is when
Mm.
they're seeking you out and asking you to come into the process, you have their attention. And that's the place you want to be in.
Mm.